We join together in a global pandemic, a very new, unknown time for us all. We're very sensitive as to whether to launch this initiative at this time. I think coming together, we thought there was an opportunity to really launch webinars, uplift the volume of our podcasts, and set up some learning forums with a sense of bringing people together and a sense of purpose in doing that, to share and learn knowledge, perhaps while we're all in slightly abnormal circumstances, and get us all talking together. So sensitive to the context that we're doing it, but we feel it's the right move at the right time, and we hope that you connect with it hereafter. Today's topic, coaching through COVID. Obviously a new forum for us all, a new experience for us all. I want to introduce briefly and thank our guests today, and we're really looking to explore in their worlds what coaching through COVID is looking like for them in terms of how they've adapted from riverbank or lake bank to this brand new world. So just going to go around and let them introduce themselves. Matt, we'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Matt Lawrence. I work for the Para Canoe program. Have been working there since 2013, and did a bit of under 23 work, some junior work, and some kids before that. And before that, I was an athlete. We were looking to go to Tokyo this year, but that's plans now been put on hold for a year. And yeah, that's where we are right now.
Thanks, Matt. Imogen, over to you.
Hi, I am Imogen. I am the English National Talent Squad sprint coach, where I'm working with a female focus, and I started getting into coaching when I was about 18, started volunteering at Reading Canoe Club, and then I've just progressed my way through the system since then. And as much as this time's quite hard, I think it's been very interesting, so I'm excited to talk to you guys all about it.
Brilliant, thank you, Imogen. Luke?
Yeah, I'm Luke. I've been working for the Slalom talent program for 4 years now, working with a mixed age from 13 to 18-year-olds, very different abilities as well throughout the pathway. And yeah, it's been quite fun, and been really good to see across the conversations that have been previously other people's ways of working. It's been really creative and a good bit of fun as well.
Brilliant. Thanks, you guys, and thanks so much for giving up your time today. Let's get into the content. So coaching through COVID, such an unknown for us. We're coaching from home. Just want to get straight into it. Hand over to you, Matt, in terms of what does coaching look like for you right now?
Yes, so it's definitely a new environment we're coached from. So we've had to think on our feet quite quickly. Obviously, one day we were training, and the next day we were raiding the gym and getting our athletes as much equipment as they could to potentially train at home, with a bit of an unknown of how long or where they're going to be. Obviously, there's physical difficulties within para, which are sort of quite obvious, so it limits what you can do. We managed to get most people ergos, so we could start. So we knew they had something. And basically, we've been through a bit of a journey, I'd say. First off, it looked like it was going to be a short time. Then we realised it's going to be a long time. So then we've had a little look at how we're going to manage energy. And then we've also had athletes start to lose friends and family due to the COVID. And I think that itself has started to change a little bit of the attitude with athletes and a little bit of our perspective. So we left here with a mindset that the games were still going to be on, and we were still quite performance focused, to a place now where we're trying to keep the guys healthy, fit, and just avoid any injury, and try and sit this out for as long as we can. I think once we realised that, and once we realised where we were in that situation, we then took a look at, okay, so we've got this period of time, we have got time now, and once we obviously realised the Worlds have been cancelled, and the postponed or cancelled, and the games have now definitely been moved, took a little bit of pressure off. So we've then been able to go, what are some clear goals? What can we achieve right now? And sort of really make the most of that. And then came the obvious, the difficulty around that, the athlete and what are they going to do at home. We have quite a short athlete experience. So our athlete could come in 1 year and in 3 years be a professional athlete working full time with a fully funded program, access to gym, access to everything, full coaching, and have had no real experience of coaching themselves or no club experience. So going back to home, they're in a world where they don't really understand how to self-motivate. They don't really understand how to do things themselves, which is actually probably one of the things where we've always known it as a hole in the program, that we quickly get someone to go from A to B as fast as they can, and we miss out quite a lot of that growth area. So I think what we found now is that the thing we can do is try and instill a bit more self-motivation, a bit more creativity within those athletes where they haven't had before. And yeah, that's kind of where we are right now. I think there's a lot we do. We spend a lot of time with our athletes, and I only have 6 athletes, so I know them quite well. And I think knowing the athletes has probably been the most helpful bit in this time, because obviously we've set all this out. We've tried to get some goals. We've got some clarity. We've taken pressure off because we don't have the games. But now we've then got to look at an athlete that some athletes are stuck at home with their parents. They're 32, and that's quite a difficult place to be. Some athletes have kids, because obviously I've got quite a big age range, and some are at home alone. So now we've got to sort of start to understand and unpick where their heads are at and how they're going to respond in this environment. So we're sort of going through a bit of work like that now with the psychs. To put you sort of in the picture, I've got one athlete that's basically going to complete Netflix by next week, and I've got another athlete that's burying themselves into training. And I've obviously got an injury issue with the athlete that's burying themselves into training, doing all sorts of strange things. And I've got one athlete that's slowly and surely getting fatter and learning like every single line in Prison Break. So we've got an environment that's changing, and we're trying to settle them down. And I think we're trying to put a couple of like points at so next week I phoned up the athlete that's watching a lot of Netflix. I phoned him up today, and it all starts on Monday, and I'm going to have to phone him up before every session and have to probably handhold him through that. The other athlete that's potentially going a little bit hard, we've now got to start to manage and sort of instill the issue that if she gets injured, we cannot support them with physio and stuff. So that's kind of the environment that's happening at the moment and where we are.
Brilliant. Thank you, Matt. I'm hearing a lot of stuff that I'm sure the audience in the room can resonate with. Broad-ranging goals, broad-ranging motivations. Really picked up on some key stuff from you there. Focusing on the person first, taking time to adjust and understand the change before you try and interact with the athlete and get equipment and things like that. I'm conscious there's been a lot of that going on, certainly around the UK this year. Challenges of empowerment, really interesting to hear that. Perhaps a sort of side effect challenge of a fast track program such as the Para program, and be interesting to hear when we come to the other guys shortly if that has any resonance with their programs as well. And yeah, I'm sure with everyone understanding the person, Matt came across strong there, and that balance of knowing when to push, when to pull, when to guide, and when to direct. Imogen, let's head over to you. Slightly younger crowd for yourself. What's coaching looking like for you?
Yeah, it's really interesting because all of my athletes are absolutely lapping up the fact that they're now pretty much full-time athletes. They're taking every opportunity to train, and the overtraining is a concern that I have with some of them. I haven't actually had too many athletes that I've been too concerned about with undertraining, because everyone's so excited at the moment that they've got kit at home, they've got new sessions to do. They're almost lapping it up a bit too much, so we're having to monitor that. The thing for us is that at present we've had Worlds cancelled as of yesterday, the day before. However, Europeans, we still don't know what's happening for that. It could be postponed to August, and because we're working with the younger guys, we have an event called Olympic Coach, which happens in September. So throughout the different ages, if you're in under 18, potentially they've got a really hard kind of pill to swallow, that they might not have anything else to do in their junior year. But for some of the younger guys, they've still got something to keep pushing for. And we've spoken to the Hungarian Federation who are organising the event. They're really keen to still run it. So basically, for me, I'm pretty similar, very individual athlete focused and trying to keep them happy. Some of them have been needing loads of support, daily messaging, daily communications, not even about training sometimes, just to have people to chat to. Some of them have been able to progress on a lot and just go about their normal training regime almost without us. But I've been doing quite a lot of video ergo sessions, whether that's trying to give technical, but that's very dependent on everyone's internet speed, because seeing a stroke's quite hard if they've frozen in one position. And then we've got like remote gym sessions. We've then started doing daily challenges. I'm doing bi-weekly catch-ups. We've got yoga, core sessions, athlete sessions where they've got a resource where they can choose what they want to do, feedback on videos, supporting emotionally, which like I say is quite a big thing, and also preparing for the future. But it comes back to the fact that all of the individual needs are slightly different. Where they are within their progression and their development stage is quite important. But we as a coaching team are just trying to give them an opportunity to have fun and remember why they love the sport, as well as training hard.
Brilliant. Thanks, Imogen. Anyone who's new to Imogen's world, she's absolutely rocking it in remote coaching right now. And I'm sure we'll hear a bit more about that shortly. Imogen, you touched on, I guess, that sense of unknown and that unease within coaching worlds and athlete worlds regarding that sense of unknown. I've read a lot in science and psychology around the kind of relevance to what's known as anticipatory grief there. So that feeling of loss before loss actually occurs. I guess with the unknown of not having a season, having a race, having Tokyo, not having Tokyo, there's a lot of that going on at the moment.
Yes,
just noted a question from Gareth on the chat there in terms of what your experience has been in chatting with athletes who've lost their final year, maybe because of this pandemic.
So actually, it's been quite an interesting one. So within their bi-weekly catch-ups with the girls, I had a number of them kind of, the last question I asked some pretty simple questions around kind of how they're getting on, what I can do to help. And then the last question was what next? And that was if this get cancelled, what are we thinking? If they go, what are we thinking? And actually, some of the girls were really straight away positive, like, yeah, I'm continuing on. I want another year. I don't feel satisfied. I'm going to keep going. Some of them were kind of coming back and saying, yeah, this is me done. If I haven't got this, I'm done. But actually, going back to that kind of pre-grief thing, there was one individual who was very adamant that next year she wouldn't be racing. Yes, maybe even this morning, I had a message from her saying, actually, I will be racing again next year. I want to prove myself. And this was after finding out Worlds was cancelled. So it goes back to that. Before she found out it was cancelled, she was kind of coming up with scenarios in her head and all these things and reasons why she wasn't going to do it. But then once it got cancelled, that kind of gave her the clarity to realise what she wanted longer term. So actually, it's been really interesting talking to the kids because they've shown an incredible level of maturity. Some of them are just completely happy individuals, so they just keep cracking on. Some of them, it is a bit of an emotional roller coaster. They'll be good one day, not the rest. But my important thing for them has been like, if you're not feeling happy, don't worry. Like, it will come back, but if you don't want to train, take a day off. Like if you really don't feel in a happy place, that's a priority for me. So whatever we can do.
Brilliant. Thanks, Imogen. Gareth, hope that reflects your question there. I think the big thing that stands out there is communication. I think we'll talk about opportunities within the challenge of this current environment. And I think getting to know the person in front of you is a huge one that I've experienced. Imogen, you've got young athletes there full time. I'm going to use this as a link to Luke. I'm really engaged, just really sort of, really compelled to hear about how the parents are dealing with that and what the coach's role is in engaging parents who have suddenly got teenage or adolescents on their hands, full-time athletes, as well as no longer in education from a formal attendance perspective. So Luke, if you can thread that in to telling us what coaching looks like for you, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I guess. So for me, I've been in communication pretty much every single day with them as a group, parents included, athletes and parents in a group. I guess for the group I work with, it's very very different across each individual. Like one of them is their last year junior, but then they've also they've done all their work, and then their exams are no longer there. So there's struggled a bit. That athlete struggled probably a lot more than the others. Main bit from the parents, I think, is they miss the canoeing as well. I think they see what it does for them. So having something that they can engage with themselves and be a part of really helps bring them on board, and then helps them, keep in touch with what the kid's doing. And I think that's helped massively. They're seeing like all the work that they're doing, like I guess, and I think that's helping massively for them. I think as much as it is very different, I guess coaching is still the same. It's still engaging, having fun, communicating, motivating, supporting, challenging. And I think if we keep that, then it keeps everyone engaged through that, and making sure the parents are knowing what's going on and inviting them and getting them to join in. Like I've had parents join in on tech workshops so they can learn more about the sport, which has been really good, and the parents have been really happy with them. And there's a couple of other ideas that I'm going to try have, where it's going to be like a family quiz off and stuff like that, which looking forward to doing. But yeah, I think the main thing to remember is even though it is different, we've got no water, we can't do face to face in its own. It is still coaching, and we've just got to keep following that, and that'll give them the bit of structure. One thing that I've done is try to do everything that I've set them.
Getting fitter, Luke. So I hear getting fitter.
Well, yeah, trying to. It's been very hard. I think after the first circuit, I wasn't able to lift my arms up for about 3 days. But I think for them to see that I'm willing to go through it with them kind of motivates them to go, you know what, let's push on. And I think also it gives them a bit of like, oh, actually I'm quite fit and strong because we beat Luke.
Luke, I'm going to have to chip in. I think I've got the sense, including myself, that there's fingernails against the laptop, So whilst I agree with the fact that coaching is very, very the same in this environment, I bet people are dying to hear. I've never seen you coach out the office, a slalom session before, when given the choice. So how are you bringing it alive now? There's a question from Sid there. How are you bringing canoe slalom, which is a challenging sport to do indoors, alive for the people within your group right now?
So some things that we've played around. So we've done some technical workshops, like I said. So we did a couple on features, so feature tech, and then we did one on ups. So at the moment I've got them all looking into 3 ups, and then they're going to summarize what they've learned about those 3 ups. We've done features, and then included some challenges of like, okay, what things could you do outside of the environment now that could help you become better at them when you come back on the water. We've done some visualization games where they've created a little obstacle course in their house. They've visualized themselves doing it, put a little bit of a time on it, and then they've gone and done the course, which has been a bit of fun, and trying to see who can get the closest time between the two. So those are a couple of things that we've done that have tried to engage skills that are used in slalom, and then trying to increase skill and knowledge in those areas.
Brilliant. Thanks, Luke. Have you give us a sense of how like practically you're doing that, Luke? So, are you preloading sort of interactions with content online? Is this a Zoom call? How's it looking?
So for the features, it took me a lot of time to do this, but I basically got so my group is all is all girls. So I took every feature move that was in the World Cups and the Worlds this year in the finals, and made like a little video of all of that, and then sent that to them to prime them with some features to watch, just basically to save them time as well. But that was to load it, and then so for the ups, basically I do 2 meetings a week on the tech. Well, that's what I've done the last 2 weeks. One where it's like one that I've primed the week before and given them some little tasks to come into, watch some video, have a look at this. I mean, Dan Goddard's got some really good articles, so send them over there to have a look at some stuff. So like prime them with that, then come into the discussion. Played some games like Spot the Difference. Watched video in the session, in the presentations with them, got their opinion on stuff, challenged them on what they already know, like had a little bit of a quiz inside there as well, and then left them with a task between the 2 meetings. So one's at the beginning of the week, one's at the end of the week, and at the end of the week we reflect on the previous session and then bring in what they've done across the week into that next session. So tomorrow I'll have a meeting with them where they're all going to summarize what they learned about the 3 ups that they chose, and we're going to have a bit more of a discussion from that.
Brilliant. Thanks, Luke. I'm hearing some key themes. I really like the way you're empowering your group. Sounds like you're giving them autonomy around a structure, which is probably key for that age to take decisions, have choice in the way they present, all skills that are key for life. And you're really threading the learning within that. And I think the ability for us as coaches to really expand knowledge of our disciplines in a remote environment is a key skill to have right now. It's time that maybe we don't necessarily apportion as well as we might when we're in the full flow of training and on the water. Really keen to come back to Matt on this sense of empowerment. So Luke, you have a tremendous responsibility, as we all do, in shaping young people's lives. You play a key role with them. Matt's talked about, I guess, a fast track approach where he's getting adults coming into his world with a real range of different skills. Matt, you talked about empowerment being something that you're looking to expand at this time. Got some examples of how you're doing that?
Yeah, so I think there's when we sort of got told we'd be leaving the centre, it was basically 24 hours notice. And a lot of those athletes that we have, especially some of them, like the younger ones especially, either they've come from other sports where, again, they've been full-time athletes, or they've talent ID'd through us and they've never been athletes. So they've never had like a long time understanding the sport or the canoeing itself. So I think when that happened, it was quite a big shock for everyone. So we had to move them off the site 24 hours back into home, and then it's suddenly like, well, what do we do? Like, some of them don't have a chins bar at home. We've got to invent some exercises, and I think the empowering came when we were able to go, right, we want you to do this many sessions. We need you to do some sessions. We need to set you some challenges. What have you got at home to make yourself a gym? You know, at the moment, I've got one girl in Scotland that's literally turned a barn into, looks like Virgin Active now. I mean, she's done really well, and this is one of the athletes that I was struggling to get even to run a session on her own. And then I've got other athletes that have got gazebos. They've taken they've been quite creative. Where I think they've never experienced that. They've never experienced the need to take that much ownership. We've literally, the minute they've come in, we've taken the ownership off them and given them whatever they need, just because of the nature of the sport and potentially some of the other difficulties. So I think where we've seen the empowerment, I think actually we're going to come out of this with athletes that have been a bit more empowered and learned something that potentially they wouldn't have had. So it's actually, I actually see it, you know, although it's disappointing, we've got to have to wait another year for the games. I actually see us coming out of this, especially some of the younger athletes, in a much stronger place with something we would never have had.
Brilliant. Thank you, Matt. That's really good to hear. And so many similarities as well as contrasts across your two environments. I think some really useful threads coming through. It wouldn't be right to not allow Imogen's creativity and energy to burst through the screen here. I'm just going to give you a free rein, Imogen, on telling the world on this call what you've been doing with the guys. And really, I guess we've heard a lot about your purpose of coaching at the moment. How has that shaped what you're doing?
So I think that through kind of being there individually to support them, it's also really key for them to support each other. So people that were on the call, we've done these bring it on challenges where they've kind of competed against each other to try and win the day, and then actually they've had to come up with the next challenge. They seem to really like that, which is what then led me on to my next thing of within a group that I'm doing 2 gym sessions a week with over Google Hangouts. I've actually made them be the coach for the day each. They've absolutely loved it because, one, they've got to be able to pick what they can do, but it's actually forced them to communicate with each other more behind, I want to say behind my back, without me knowing, to then come up with a plan that works for them that I then have to do as well. So by having a coach for each different session, they're having to take the time prior to the session to plan it. They're having to share the session with all the other athletes and myself beforehand. And then they have to make sure that everyone's got the equipment they need. They have to run the session. And then actually we take that time afterwards to like review coach to athlete what they were experiencing. And actually it's been really good for them to see all the other things that we have to think about as coaches. I think they're quite quick to just see it being done and just think that that's all that happens. But actually to think about the time that it has to be, the logistics, everything like that has been quite interesting. One of the guys that led it turned around to me and was like, "Are we really this bad at listening all the time?" And I was like, "We're actually worse when there's more distractions around." But they couldn't get their head around it. But they absolutely love that because it gives them the opportunity to kind of show a bit of personality and their favorite things within a session, and then they can share that with the group, and they're spending that time to communicate and link up to work out what's good for them to be doing.
Brilliant. Thanks, Imogen. You are the Minister of Creativity on this call. That is probably undisputed. Where can people find this sort of, if you're happy sharing this resource, as I understand from this week's interactions with you, Imogen, where could people find some of the ideas or the talent pages online that you've been working so hard on?
So some of the stuff I think is being shared. Charmaine's shared some of it, but I don't know if it's being put live, but I hope it will be. I'm also trying to promote it being put onto the English National Talent Instagram page, because they've got loads of gym sessions on there with ideas, but I think it would be really nice to show them what we've been doing as well, to put some of that up on there.
Brilliant. Superb. I was on a call this morning with colleagues from different sports, and it really struck me the balance of, I guess everyone we work with is an individual. Some of the really quirky stuff you're doing, Imogen, like I sense that it would appeal to the extrovert. I guess, how are you balancing individual needs or different social interactions within each challenge that people feel it's a psychologically safe space to interact?
It's actually been really interesting because the first week that we did it was all individual challenges and loads of people got involved, but there were a few people that were less involved with the group that didn't get involved. And these probably were the ones that were a bit more shy, didn't want to go and send a video of themselves to a group. And then so we were like, okay, let's change it up. The second week we decided to put them in teams, and there were 3 or 4. Well, there were 3 girls and 1 boy that suddenly started getting more involved because he felt safer being within that team environment. They didn't have to do much, but actually going back to that thought of, okay, I'm a bit nervous showing myself off individually, but if I'm hiding in a group and there's all these other pictures and videos as well, then that kind of will take the pressure off me. And it's been quite interesting within sessions as well. So some of the girls will want group sessions for ergo, and some of the girls will just want the individual stuff. And that's kind of, yeah, they want the input, but quite often it's just they want to be able to feel comfortable just chatting with me rather than kind of going quite quiet within the groups when there's more voices.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, and I've heard a lot of that in the last 3 weeks, that the ability to opt in or out to create a safe space is really crucial, and backing that up with your reflections and how you connect your squads from there, so you're not I guess counteracting that with feedback and feeling like people are isolated. That's fantastic. And it's pretty cool, I think, to hear that relationships are being formed in a lockdown situation, and people are gaining perhaps people that they might share experiences for a very, very long time.
Yeah,
I think that's fantastic.
As a team, we've been trying to push teamwork for a while, but it's quite hard when some people you spend most of your time training in K1s, so trying to get that emphasis of coming together as a group has always been quite difficult. But actually, this has definitely pushed all the athletes together more. Like, this is the first time the WhatsApp group's actually being used to communicate, to chat, to ask questions, to put ideas out there. So it's been really positive for that.
Fantastic, well done. So from hearing of people coming together, we got a question from Gareth for Matt about people who have already come together very well. Matt, I know the Power Programme puts a lot on the cohesion of the group. We saw that through the floods in Nottingham, how they're really coming together to put out some novel content and ways of training. I guess, yeah, how's it affected that close relationship when they're not seeing each other daily, Matt?
I think it's probably, I think for some, it's definitely affected athletes, because we're a very close knit team. We put a lot of work into understanding ourselves and understanding the team, understanding what we're like under pressure. And like, they kind of live in each other's a lot of the time, training groups, they're with each other day in, day out, and that doesn't happen. I mean, to start with, we've got about 100 different WhatsApp groups. There's a constant communication. I think I would normally have an individual meeting with each athlete once a week, and then I'd also see my athletes every day. But what we've done is we've kept that kind of format in terms of they have an official meeting once a week, or our one-to-one with them. We also have staff meetings, probably one a day with certain members of staff. We have group meetings. So I think the miracle of modern technology and Google Hangouts is what we've been spending a lot of time doing. Weirdly, I'm seeing more busy than I am when we're coaching with it. But I think we've just not stopped communicating. I think it's been difficult. I think some of the athletes are struggling right now with their motivation because they're not coming to home Pierpont, and they're not seeing their counterparts, and they're not competing. So I think there is some stuff there we're trying to kind of help them through. But essentially, we've not stopped communicating. There's also the other thing that we've got the social, the quiz at the end of the week, and those little bits that kind of keep people feeling connected. There's a lot of competition still. Like we challenge each other. We had like press up competition this week where people are coming up with ideas, and it's only the fun side after the training. But I think just keeping connected, which is a lot easier to do these days, I think, with WhatsApp and stuff. So that's basically how we're doing it. I think we're not letting it go either. We've made sure that every athlete is communicated with, and each member of staff essentially talks with every athlete sort of within that week. There's a few that have kind of isolated themselves, and I think we've highlighted that quite quickly. So we're sort of getting ourselves being proactive about communicating with them as well. I think it's quite important, and I think there is I think especially when no one knew what was happening with the games or the worlds, there was so much. These are their livelihoods for some of these guys. There was so much on edge. No one knew what was happening. Should they be training? I think it's something that I think we sort of put a high importance, and it's changed. The reality is the world we're living in. 3 weeks on, to put it quite harsh, people are dying. Like, it's kind of, there's a real reality, and like I say, a couple of the athletes have lost friends and actually parents. So we now need to change at the moment to it's not so much about performance, it's about looking after that athlete and getting them through this time with an aim to start talking about performance again when the environment changes. But it's, yeah.
Thank you, Matt. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'd all echo the sadness in the feelings around the gravity of the situation, and particularly the closer it gets to people we know. It means a big challenge for everyone, and not just for us as coaches as well, but it's important we have the help, I think, as well. And we'd encourage people to communicate around that if they are feeling that they need the help to support, in order to support others. I've had an excellent question come in from Peter. Thanks for that, Peter. I'm going to go to Luke on this one, because this is something we've discussed quite a lot. And I know Luke is an avid user of engaging athletes, both when not in lockdown and in lockdown, through social media. Luke, the question is, I guess, how acceptable is it from a welfare perspective to use the likes of WhatsApp as a form of communication with under 18s? Can you talk us through what you do within the realms of welfare and how you think that's best practice?
Yeah, so I guess the communication I have with my group, all athletes, and this is from our welfare officer, athletes of under 16 require a parent or guardian on if you're doing a call, even if it's a group. So all of the group video calls, there is always a parent on those calls. In our group WhatsApp, we have I think all the parents are in that group WhatsApp, and then just making sure that you've got consent from those parents as well. And I think that's really important. If they're under 18, I think making sure you've got consent, and especially if they're under 16, to make sure there is a parent involved in that communication in the group or on the call.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. I think it's critical. I think if anyone has any questions on that, then Zafir Campbell from British Canoeing is a good starting point on the email. You can find her links on our website. But definitely, yes, absolutely, more than one adult on any WhatsApp group is just a no-brainer. And I think it's as much to protect the coach as well as the paddlers. It's important to be mindful of that. And I think there's some really good practice come into place in the last few years around that stuff. So if anyone's got any questions, please get in touch, and we can guide you in the right place to the experts in those fields to keep everyone directed and safe. Thank you, Gaz. There's Zafir's email. She'd be happy to take an email and a call at any time, I'm sure. And I think the same says I was getting videos posted from a snow sports coach, which you can imagine. We think paddling in the garden is difficult at the minute, but I don't know if you saw the ski lift from the dad going around Facebook yesterday. It was pretty epic. But yeah, there's a sense on the calls from trampoline coaches this morning and snow sport coaches of that. Whilst we're applauding and encouraging creativity at home from the athletes, there's that balance of what responsibility do we have from a health and safety perspective, given that we definitely don't want people going to hospital who don't have to at the moment. So a number of reasons. And particularly because they may be using our equipment. There was a lot of parkour going on the WhatsApp group I was on this morning, which was extremely impressive. Yeah, but I think it's important that we all kind of know where we stand, and as organisations, we've got to be mindful of that without squashing creativity amongst the youngsters. Going to go for a quick fire round now, guys. So one each. I'm an optimist. I always think there's opportunity in the face of challenge. What have you come to learn, either from yourselves or from the beautiful people you work with? What's been the opportunity that's hit you in the face during this period of time? Imogen, let's go.
If I say my 5 really quickly, is that okay?
Go.
Okay. Kids love challenges. It takes time, and we have to remember that when they're at school, they've got so much going on. Are we asking a lot for them, for junior athletes, to be making technical changes? 3 was athletes can take ownership and need to take ownership, so it's important us as coaches don't override that. 4 is creativity and training is what I love, so doing different things keeps the athletes happy and excited, so I need to do that more when we come out here. And then the last one that I've taken is positivity is priceless.
Positivity is priceless. Matt, follow that.
I've probably, I think probably the biggest one is how to use Google Hangouts and how long it takes to have a meeting over a computer compared to a normal meeting. But I think probably the biggest thing the thing I learned is actually how important understanding your athlete is and how they're going to react in these situations, because the athletes we talked about before we went away, the issues we thought might arise were actually the issues that did arise, and we were ahead of the game and able to prep for that. And I think that for me is really making sure that athlete relationship is and and put time into finding out is probably the big one. Probably the main thing. And the other thing is the advantageousness of having an opportunity like this, which is putting them in somewhere. They've got to be creative and they've got to come up with their own motivation, their own answers to certain questions. So yeah, that'd probably be it.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, I would echo the person-centered stuff. I think it's amazing how I felt quite embarrassed. You pick up the phone to someone and it feels more natural to say, "How are you?" than it might do if you pass them in the corridor 3 times a day, There's a balance to be struck between suffocating their personal space for sure. But I think, yeah, it's a reminder that good decency of human being and inquiring how people are sets you up for a close professional relationship from an athlete-coach perspective. Luke, key opportunities for you?
I think for me, there's an opportunity to just learn and better yourself in everything and reflect on everything you've done. Like normally in our day-to-day lives, maybe we don't get the opportunity to do that because we're busy, so busy. So I think now it's like a really good opportunity for that. I think for the kids as well, like it's a good opportunity for them to go, well, what do I want to do? And what I've seen is really motivated, energized kids, especially from like the stuff that Imogen has showed. I think another one is steal other ideas, and don't be afraid of that. Like I'm pretty sure like at least once or twice, or at least once a day, I'm going, oh, I really like that. I'm going to try to steal that. Like I'm going to steal Imogen's idea of doing the challenges every single, or something like that. And there's other stuff. And I think just like, it also gives us the opportunity to try loads of stuff. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And we don't have to worry about it too much, because we've got time. So I think that's a good one. I think don't be be open to making mistakes and trying new things in this period. I think that's
brilliant. Thank you, Luke. And you're getting some kudos from Andy. Thank you, Andy, on the chat there. So it's great to hear about the development of social learning spaces, something we're all having to adapt to live. And I think the sharing is really important. I think what I hear from Luke there is the role modeling of creativity, of taking risks, of trial and error. You look at any innovative companies, they've probably failed many, many, many times before they get it right. And I think that is learning craft in sport. And I think that's brilliantly role modeled there, Luke. Fantastic stuff. Imogen, I've got a challenge for you. You're very positive. You're super creative. Next week, how will you enhance the relativity to the sprint race of your challenges?
So we are actually next week hoping to make them live competitions. So everyone will be on it, and we'll be doing them there and then. And that will kind of bring it back to the competitive race scenarios that we will be doing for racing. So hopefully by having that live element where we're all doing the challenges or the competitions as we are, like there and then, it will bring it back to kind of that atmosphere that we want to create and that will be created later on when, fingers crossed, they at some point get to race this year.
Fantastic, Imogen. Look out. I don't know how good you are in IT, but it sounds like we're on the cusp of canoe-related Zwift software here. So yeah, if there's any IT gurus on the call that want to help Imogen make a name for herself in that space, that would be absolutely fantastic. Good stuff. I'm just going to go into our last area in terms of the structure of the panel here, and questions can keep coming in. Got 13 minutes left. Want to respect people's time and finish on time. So I'm really conscious with all the online content that's going on now. I'm pretty nervous going back to work. I'm sensing that maybe not some of the people on this call, certainly, but myself, we can be a bit of the creativity police maybe, and falling into some structures or drills or ways of doing things that are traditional within our sports. I guess, what can we learn from what we've seen on the creativity side from our young learners or adult learners during this time? And what are we seeing it means for our future practice when we go back to work? Because I'm sensing if we roll out the same old sessions, we're gonna be hearing about it, and quite right. Matt.
Well, I think the opportunity, like I think we've said it a couple of times, I think just the fact that we normally fast track quite quickly and we miss out this bit. I think when we start to see the value of them leading their own sessions, almost leading part of their own program more so, less with us not there, I think that's probably going to be something, probably going to push the athletes on a little bit more when they get back, sort of see how far we can go with that in terms of their creativity in sessions, where I think they're probably a bit spoon-fed from us normally. So I think there's some good stuff there. Yeah, I don't think I've reflected on this this next couple of weeks yet. I don't think I've stopped yet. Obviously, the Worlds only got cancelled yesterday, so I think there's quite a lot to look at. And I think I will be over the next few weeks looking at back how things have gone, what we're doing. I think in a couple of weeks I'll have a bit of a clearer picture about how it will look after it. But yeah, there's quite a lot to take in. Yeah.
Awesome, thanks, Matt. And I think the return to paddling may well be a topic to cover on a pod or a webinar in the coming future. I know Sid's on top of that. Matt, I'm really, like, you work in a team, you're really fortunate to have like an athlete performance team supporting you, supporting them. I guess, how are you making sure, so you're seeing a lot of empowerment. My sense is that you're going to judge when you come back to the water, how much they can lead on the program. I guess, how are you going to bring the team into that picture so that is supported globally, so the athletes really feel like they are empowered to be empowered?
Well, so I mean, we've always had a program that, like, the main aim has always been to get the athlete. We have like an ADT process, and as the athlete comes in and understands more about it, they start to lead it a little bit more, and like we agree goals rather than create goals. So we've always had that. I think probably. I think we're going to probably. I think that will just give us some more. I think we've got more places to go now. I think when we look to develop gym sessions or water sessions, I think we're going to have an athlete that's come back having been a bit more creative in their environment, and see if they can bring that in. I think it'll add to the process. So our ADT process is essentially just the athlete, the staff, the support team all around us, all involved. We come up with some ideas. I think we're going to lean. It might give us a bit more sort of opportunity to lean on the paddler a little bit more and get them to really take part, engage a little bit more in that process. I think that's probably, has that answered the question?
Brilliant. Yeah, no, it's superb, Matt. And I guess for anyone who's not as maybe a full-time coach, as we're afforded the opportunity, everyone on the panel here today, I think a good friend of mine in rugby talks about understanding who's in front of you on the day. So whilst they all might arrive at your training centre or your riverbank, they've probably got on the bus before they got off. They've probably got on at a different bus stop. And it's part of our job to find out which bus stop they got on, whether that's how they got on at school, what's happening with the family. They couldn't get a lift to training, that's why they're late. And I'm sensing from that perspective, when we do return to training, it's almost like a little audit globally of this last period. Would be sensible to take time over to really unpick the movement, the sense making of their why moving forward before we launch into training programs.
Yeah, we've already had some. We're sort of having those discussions of coming back to paddling, because there is going to be a lot of they're going to have been at home now. Those with kids would have got used to working at home. They would have got used to their life. You know, if we are locked down for 12 weeks, that's 12 weeks. That's quite a big. That's 3 months where things change, and I think we're the slow introduction and back into full-time training environment. We're going to have to really look at individual cases about how it comes back, because I think the further we get, and the more their life loads and different people in different places. I think there's some stuff there. I think we could probably we could make mistakes, I think, as well, if we start bringing them back into like a performance environment like this. I mean, there's the obvious, the physical stuff, the injuries. I think there's also like, really got to understand, what bus stop they've come in at, or however. I think that's a good analogy.
Lovely. Thanks, Matt. You've given Imogen a lot of time to think here about what the creativity we've seen from people in their home environments has meant for her practice when we come back. Imogen?
I think the really big thing is that the athletes take more pride in what they do if they have a choice in what they're doing. So if they're taking that time to kind of work out what they're doing, like we've experienced, that the highest uptake of the challenges was when the athletes themselves were trying to win the right to pick the next challenge. So that seems to have, if that's a motivator, why should I be, as a coach, kind of, as silly as it sounds, why should I be the one always telling them what to do? Because they have that want to work harder if they can be the ones in control of what they do. So there needs to be that greater level of shared communication between coach and athlete within the planning stage of anything we do, to make sure that they're really buying into what it is, because they played a part in deciding what it is.
Fantastic. Sid, if that doesn't make it onto the notes for this recording on the headline, the athletes take more pride in what they do when they have a choice. It's not going to get much better than that. That's gold dust. Thanks, Imogen. Luke, from your perspective, when you head back to Lee Valley?
I think going to give them a bit of ownership on how they want to understand or learn a skill. I think it's really easy for us to go, right, we want to learn features, so this is what I'm going to set. Rather than going, okay, how do you want to learn it? Because it might be very different to how we perceive is the best way. So giving them the opportunity to be creative and maybe design in designing sessions, and even if that's, if we're doing a circuit, they choose their favorite exercises, or I think the main thing is, if they're on the water, give them the opportunity to be creative with how they learn, and they know how they learn better than anyone else, and they're probably going to come up with something completely different to what we've thought of, and that might actually be better than what we've thought of. And trying not to get, I think from a coaching side of it, is trying not to let your ego stop their creativity and stop their development. Give them a bit of free rein in how they want to learn, and if they want to go play, allow the play, because that's a kind of a lot of what they are going to be doing across this period, is they're going to be playing with ideas, playing with games, the stuff Imogen's talking about, they're going to be playing in how they do that as well. So trying not to, especially for my group, trying not to take that away from them and keep that as like a little bit of a motivator.
Awesome. Thanks, Luke. That is absolutely superb. I think I've already had one of my athletes dictate to me that the first session back will be complete play. So that's good to hear. They're not alone out there, and I will not be getting in the way of that. Guys, good challenge here. We've got 4 minutes to cover some questions from the floor. I'm going to rattle them out. Gaz has been waiting a long time. His question, first come, first served. How do you switch off when your bedroom has become your office? Let's hear it. Matt Lawrence. Move to the summer house. Matt Lawrence, what you got for Gaz?
I mean, I've got 3 kids, so I don't really have much of a choice. And I guess we've got a spare room, so I sit in that. I think it's the same as well. I find it as hard to switch off whether I'm working at work. Actually, potentially it's probably harder if I'm at work, because I come home and I'm still thinking about it. Whereas here, I'm here and then I'm turn the laptop off, and I seem to be a bit more off actually at home, weirdly. But I think it's like anything. I think as coaches, we live and breathe it a bit, and we always bring it home. I think you kind of got to find your thing. I make sure I go for a run, and then I make sure I spend time with the kids, and just making sure that time's sort of the family. I think.
Yeah, great advice, Matt. I think that's key. We're looking at phase 2 a lot. I've heard that a lot today, bringing structure to the athlete world. I guess we've got to try and role model that where we can, and also be mindful to do things that are good for mental health. Yes, Sid, that may not be running around the garden in canoe equipment, but thanks to those who did sponsor Gaz. Had a question from Hannah Brown here that I saw flying. Hello, Hannah. She's busy on the social network in the canoeing world. Thanks for your inputs in different forums, Hannah. How have you found coach-to-coach conversations over this period, Imogen? Have these changed in terms of the out-the-box style of the norm?
I wouldn't say they've changed that much. I think they've heightened. I personally think our team's talking a lot more, and what's really nice is that we're talking about kind of exploring the sport more rather than just the day-to-day working of it, which is quite a fun thing to be doing, sharing videos, showing different things that we've done. I would say with club coaches that it's a different conversation more because there's less about what they're doing and it's more just really individual focused, because they can only really update us on what the individuals are doing because they're not running the sessions, so they can't see what their athletes are doing that much. So it makes it slightly different in that way. But as of yet, nothing that exciting. I have requested within our review that we have next week that we have a quiz, but with Rich Ramsdale as the lead, I don't think that's going to be happening. So.
Okay, a little stretch there for Rich, I'm hearing. Maybe a little bit of, coach-to-coach support, bit of mentoring for him to do that. Maybe we can call it out that, Rich, we request personally, if you're on this call, that you do engage in the quiz this week. That's going to bring a lot to your team, and role modeling leadership is important. So on to you, Rich. Look forward to that. I hope that's useful, Hannah. I'm sure there's many more examples we could give. I'm conscious of time. Thanks to Andy. He's touching on therapeutic return to work, well known in different work environments. It's something I'll be Googling after this session to learn a little bit more about. So thanks to Andy for that. And thank you all for your inputs on the chat. I'm going to wrap it up. Massive thank you to the panel. We'll give you all a little sort of Mexican wave because you can't give you a round of applause, but thanks to Luke, thanks to Imogen, and thanks to Matt for taking the time out. And Sid, big thank you to Sid for setting this up. And just a few closing points from me. Feedback welcome. We launched this today. How is it? It's your resource, not ours. We're going to hopefully span the pathway. It will not just be full-time British Canoeing employees. That's not our intention. So please give feedback. We hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. Just a reminder, if anyone has a problem with this being recorded, nobody has voiced their self on this show, but if anyone's questions that we related to has a problem with that, we will wait 24 hours before we post this session on the digital library through SID. The next session next week will be communicated through SID. As I said at the start, for those who are present, we may well jump to the Zoom platform as it gives us a bit more flexibility and control on the software. And that'll be a bit more interactive for us. And that next session is going to be around the coach-athlete relationship. Brilliant topic, very ripe for all of us. Lots of research around that. Looking forward to hearing how it sits in context. Gareth Wilson, his athlete, Chris Bowers, who's come right through the slalom pathway through to the senior team, supported by EIS sports psychologist Daniel Adams. So those guys are on board. Not too sure, might be a special guest on that as well. So looking forward to that. We'll see you on some future editions. Once again, thanks very much. Any feedback, Sid Simfeld on British Canoeing email address. Take care, guys, and we'll see you real soon.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon. Hey, top job, guys. Well done.
Cheers, Gaz. Thanks for the questions, fella. Good questions. Have you stopped recording, Sid?
I'm going to do it in 2 seconds. Just coming down.
Thank you. I cut the call by habit there.